Welcome to the 22nd episode. Hi, Francesco. How are you doing?
Hello, Alessandro. Hello, everyone. I'm fine, thank you. Hello.
Hi, British. Happy to have you here. How are you doing?
Hey, my friend, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent.
Do you
I'm
have by
doing
chance?
good. How are you guys?
We are good as
Fine.
well. We were discussing one of the topics for later, Ethereum versus Bitcoin, but it will be one of the topics for the interview.
Okay, cool. What a shit show Ethereum is, huh?
Yes. There will be definitely a topic for the interview. Maybe we can start, British, with an analysis of you of the last 2 months. For 1 month also you were on holiday, then you came back to Twitter. And what do you think is the situation of Bitcoin so far?
Yeah, look, there's a continued rotation of buyers happening. I don't know if I can even show my video, by the way. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing that right now. I don't know how to.
You
So
have a camera in close to the microphone, to the mic?
no,
Or
I
you have
don't
only,
have that sign. It
you
just
have an
says
iPhone?
mic. Yes, it just says mic on.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no, so basically, for the last couple months, what can you say? There's a rotation of buyers clearly happening. People are very, very frustrated because the price keeps going sideways. People are very, very they're acting like children. That's just the fact of it, right? Everyone's acting like a child because the pump that we had to break the previous dollar all-time high was not supposed to happen until the end of the year to next year based on the previous cycles, and it happened a little bit sooner. And so now you've got people saying this is all dead and all these ETFs are buying, but nothing's happening to the price. And while it's correct that nothing is happening to the price, quote unquote nothing, the reality is in the belly of the beast there is a lot of rotation of ownership going on, and that rotation of ownership was obviously going to take time. There's people that need to sell, there's people that want to sell, there's people that don't, are frustrated with what's going on, and they want to dump their position. And in the meantime, what do you have? Like yesterday, BlackRock bought up 4,000 Bitcoin yesterday. There's only 450 mined on a daily basis. So there's this continued rotation of owners going on, as I said would happen after the ETFs came out. I said this last year on my YouTube channel, and that's what's happening. So at some point, that rotation of buyers is going to be completed, and then we'll start seeing price move. So right now, it's extremely boring. That's what's going on.
Yes, we can see also in activity nicks with the post, comment, likes. It's all kind of boring and waiting for the next move. I agree with you. For many, it's frustrating. I think also it's frustrating also for Bitcoiners. Like we were at 74,000 in March, so we would not expect to be still in the 60s in August. But we know what's happening behind the scenes, as you described. Even more, we know which will be the trend, like the mid or long term trend. It can be only one. So this is a different frustration. Okay, the price is not didn't do as maybe we hoped, but for sure we are not thinking to sell. That's the difference with the new joiners.
Yeah, I mean, look, what does these children expect to happen to the price? I don't understand it. It's did you expect us to go absolutely vertical from day one? No one serious took that idea seriously. I certainly never said we would go absolutely vertical from day one of the ETFs. It's going to take time. These things take time, right? The fact that BlackRock owns 4,000 Bitcoin, they've only had, I think, 1 day of outflows from the ETF since launch tells you something. That in itself is a signal. The price is not the signal. The price is the reflection of the signal, right? The signal is the fact that people are buying up Bitcoin. The new buyers that are here are never ever going to let this Bitcoin go, and that's it. And you just have to wait until the price catches up with that, and that's the difference between price and value. And the value of Bitcoin continues to climb, but the price is not catching up yet, which means you have you have a spread that you should be taking advantage of.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Francesco, please.
No, yes, I mean, we also, hello, British, I didn't greet you before. I also think that there are macro signs which very indicative, like the all-time high of gold is indicative of the expectation of liquidity injection And as an analysis, I shared also with other players like Arthur Ayers. There were some articles recently came up to this conclusion that liquidity injection stimulates. Gold acknowledges that something is about to happen and reaches all-time high. After that, the equities follow, and after that, Bitcoin follow, but at a higher pace. Gold and Bitcoin are strictly correlated. So I see a pairing between gold, between Nasdaq, the Nasdaq, and the Bitcoin, where Bitcoin has the intrinsic biggest multiplier. So it should be part of every portfolio allocation for a simple fact of opportunities. And many people will, and professionals will start to see this more and more as soon as the next bullish market catches on. And I think that we should see until the rate, the actual rate cuts in September, an anticipation. I think we should see some price movement on the upside. There could be after the cut some slight drawdown, like always happen, but it will be very quick, no more than 1 month. And then the big bull market should start. This is what has happened before. Of course, history is not always guaranteed that it's going to repeat itself, but psychology of the human beings on the large masses is highly predictable, and we know that very well in politics and other things. I don't know if you agree with me. What's your opinion on the macro environment?
Yeah, look, a lot of people like to look at gold. As you guys know, I have a gold background. I don't look at gold anymore. It's a $13 trillion market. What I like looking at is the 2-year interest rate, which to me is the shadow Federal Reserve, basically. And it's predicting massive liquidity coming into this market, massive amounts of easing of policy. And of course, Jerome Powell has changed his tune on that at Jackson Hole. And that's what we're going to get now. We've been through a tightening cycle and it's been great. A lot of people have had a very, very tough time because they had a really, really easy time in 2020 and 2021. They were spending all the government's money, and now there's no government money. And so now they need to tighten their belt again, and that's what the Federal Reserve has pretty much developed. I don't think there's going to be any of this market crash. These doom and gloom boomers that I keep talking about are always and utterly wrong every single time. It is unbelievable how they can keep going. I don't understand how a Peter Schiff audience can continue listening to Peter Schiff after the amount of times that he's been wrong consistently on every single thing that comes out of his damn mouth, right? But they do, because guess what? People are very, very attracted to doom and gloom bullshit. So, look at the 2-year interest rate, pull it out, and so you see the chart since the 1970s. And what you see is that there's a clear 40-year trend line, and we have broken that 40-year trend line, and we're now about to be punished with it. How are we going to be punished? Because we need to inject massive amounts of liquidity to keep that 40-year trend line back on track. And if we don't do that, a lot of things are going to start breaking. Jerome Powell knows this. This is why they've started talking about pivoting. Conveniently, they started talking about pivoting after the 2 years started signaling, a down cycle in interest rates. And as that down cycle in interest rate comes along, it's going to be matched with easing, because you cannot, you have to print your way out of a deflationary or a stagflationary environment. And that's what's going to happen right now. The path that we're approaching, there is no way that you can not print money in the direction that we're going. And that's what's going to happen. It's very, very simple.
No, I see. It's everything is well connected. Well, to what point?
Sorry to interrupt you, but can I just say one thing? When you said everything is connected, that's a more important statement than you know.
Bitcoin mined by every 10 minutes that is going down. We had also James Lavish in the podcast, and in one of his posts wrote, so far Bitcoin is connected with the stock market, real estate, and risk on. At one point, it will be decorrelated because people will understand more what is Bitcoin, and they will start the world will start to agree on certain position percentage allocation in Bitcoin, and from that moment he will have his own trajectory. For sure, maybe liquidity will bring even more, but it will be like a standing alone trajectory. Do you think this could happen in the future?
I don't really understand that uncorrelated argument, right? Like, what does that mean? That Bitcoin just goes up when the stock market goes down? Well, that happens in periods of time right now. So I don't really, I think that's a really nice talking point to say that Bitcoin is going to uncorrelate from the stock market. But I'll tell you one thing: if you understand the liquidity point that I made at the beginning of this talk, um, everything is up and to the right, right? It just happens that Bitcoin is going to be further up and to the right, faster up and to the right than everything else. I don't think anything else is going to get, gonna absolutely collapse. I don't even think real estate's going to collapse. But I think comparatively to what happens to Bitcoin and the returns that are generated, real estate is going to suffer. Um, so if you're looking at how do I grow my wealth, you have to grow your wealth faster than the rate at which money is printed. Otherwise, you're just maintaining your wealth. I had clients in 2020 telling me that their Morgan Stanley advisor had managed to generate them a 30% return, and I said, "Well, congratulations, you've been standing fucking still because they just printed 40% of all U.S. dollars in the last 2 years. So you did nothing, right? Your Morgan Stanley advisors, Jim, might have made you 30%, and that sounds good because previously they were screwing you with 8%, but you still haven't done anything, right? Because you're still standing still. So look, at the end of the day, the uncorrelated correlated thing, it happens. There'll be moments in time where Bitcoin is correlated, moments in time when it's not correlated. At the end of the day, until the US dollar absolutely collapses, every scarce asset that's deemed a monetary asset will be up and to the right. Bitcoin will just be more so.
If all of a sudden it goes where it should go and lose the coupling, no, it's not coupled anymore. Then it still work as an edge. So you make a best bet. So it's a no-brainer. I mean, if things keep going like go, then is a intrinsically leveraged asset. Which follows the liquidity cycle, and that's it. You just have to, as you said, follow the liquidity cycles. But then there is the plus that one day when people realize this is digital gold and they are looking at its scarcity, then it decorrelates and the stock market crashes, and maybe in 20 years from now the decorrelation widens and it saves your portfolio. So it's a win-win bet, as I call it. There is no reason why you should bet, given the 15 years track record of this investment. So the point is that if how to pitch Bitcoin to an investor, if we know that now, in this moment, it's correlated with the stock market. And we can pitch it by saying that what's the secret value, the plus, why is better in terms of return of value in the portfolio? Well, at this point, the answer is the volatility. So the volatility is what makes you outperform beat inflation and secure higher returns if you hold long enough. And I think that's how we can clearly show the value of this asset to the investors. What do you think on this point of the volatility of an asset?
Yeah, I really don't care whether anyone buys Bitcoin now or not because the game's over, right? You got a 60,000 plus dollar Bitcoin. Anyone who wants to buy it doesn't, should figure it out at this point. You got BlackRock selling Bitcoin to the top 1% of capital holders. And anyone sitting around here going, hey, convince me to buy Bitcoin because I'm a broke idiot, stay broke. I don't care. The game is up. The jig is up. I started saying this last year when BlackRock filed for their ETF, as you guys will both remember. We are about to price people out. And if you're sitting there going, I've got $10,000 and I need to be convinced to buy Bitcoin, take that $10,000 and shove it up your ass. The game is up. Now it's time for you to catch up. We spent a year trying to tell you, educate you, trying to advise people like you need to get into this before this rockets. BlackRock just got 4,000 more Bitcoin yesterday, right? There's 450 more mined. I really don't care anymore. My job, as I see it, as a Bitcoin, Z list personality, it's my job is to help people that already get it. My job is to help people. I have no desire to convince anyone. Why? Because now it's BlackRock's turn. It was British HODL's turn for a year. Now it's Larry Fink's turn to get people into Bitcoin. And they'll do a really good job at it. They'll do a really, really good job at it. So I don't have any fear anymore. It's if you're sitting there going, I need to be convinced to invest in Bitcoin, don't do it. Keep the cash. It's all good. Because now BlackRock's doing the selling. Not anyone on Twitter, not anyone on a Bitcoin company, not anyone, none of these Bitcoin conferences. One phone call from Larry Fink to a specific investor in the world will generate more capital inflow into Bitcoin than any Bitcoin conference, any Bitcoin company, and any Bitcoin personality combined. That I can guarantee you. So that's the game now. The game has completely changed. And I said it was going to happen. And as soon as we go past $100,000, we price out everyone anyway, right? Most normal people are already priced out past 100,000. Think about it. If let's say Bitcoin goes to just $100,000, in order to buy one, you need $100,000 sitting there spare that you're doing nothing with. Most people have their assets in real estate, right? Between 500,000 and $30 million net worth, most people's assets are in real estate. So how do you generate $100,000 spare? Someone who's got a $30 million portfolio might be able to do it. They might be able to refi and they might be able to do it. Somebody who's got $2 or $3 million, they don't have $100,000 sitting around to plug into something. So now they need to sell a property, right? It's late. Like, what are you gonna do? Either you panic now or you're gonna be left behind. It's as simple as that. So I don't try and convince anyone now about getting into Bitcoin. The game is over. Either you're gonna panic enough to ask about it, or you're just gonna be left behind.
I agree on the approach on with people who are like if they're against Bitcoin and you have to explain why, then doesn't make sense that we spend any time. I think every Bitcoin, the common path is when you understand Bitcoin, you try to explain to everyone. But we had so many endless discussion, and it looks like if someone is convinced that Bitcoin is so skeptic that is convinced on against Bitcoin, there is no way we can convince him. Probably the price is too low. We need higher price, then he will question their thoughts. And maybe above 100K, it will be higher. They will maybe some of them will be convinced. For some, we have to wait above 200K. For the small another group, maybe we have to wait 500K. And
Who knows? Yeah.
yeah, yes. I also now I'm start to say for Bitcoin skeptics, we don't know when they will be convinced. It's not convinced. They will have to question their assumption. It will be somewhere between 100K and 1 million,
Yep.
and this depends on also humility, also willingness to question things you gave for granted,
Right.
how much they were exposed against Bitcoin. The more you are exposed, the more you need humility to admit that you were wrong. And for many, it will be hard. So we will see. It will be a great things to see once we pass 100K.
I
And
get people talking to me about Warren Buffett, right? They say, "Oh, Warren Buffett's not into Bitcoin, so
yeah,
therefore I'm not going to go into Bitcoin." It's like, well, Warren Buffett wasn't into Apple, and yet Apple made him the most amount of money in his portfolio, right? So it's like, do you Warren Buffett can wait until Bitcoin is $3 million a coin, pile into it with 20% of his portfolio, and still be richer than you. Right? So if you're sitting there going, I need to wait until Warren Buffett gets into this, you got to understand the game that you're playing. For me, for yourselves, for other people, the game should be wealth accumulation. Warren's game is wealth preservation, and that's a different game, right? So if you're looking at to people like Warren Buffett to tell you to give you the signal about when you can accumulate when you can accumulate wealth, it's really bad signal because his game is completely different. And so you got to look at other people. You got to look at all the smart people are into Bitcoin at this point. All of the traders are into Bitcoin, right? Paul Tudor Jones, right, actually I think has a higher return profile than Warren Buffett. He's into Bitcoin. He gets it. But why? Because his job is wealth accumulation. So, yeah, it's look, at the end of the day, I don't care anymore, right? Either someone's going to care enough about their future in their life to give a shit, or they're not. But at the end of the day, something that I've been saying for a while, which a lot of people don't seem to understand, is that Bitcoin's a monetary network. It's not a human network, right? And what that means is that one human putting $1 million into Bitcoin has the same value as 1 million people putting $1 into Bitcoin. Now, I can understand the philanthropic, socialist, communist version of Bitcoin that's out there on Bitcoin Twitter that wants to get everybody involved. I couldn't care less. Maybe that's a part of my British side because we're used to being elitist. I don't know. But I don't care. I want the dollars in. So if BlackRock has to make 10 phone calls to get $1 billion into Bitcoin, I think that's a much more efficient way of doing it than having, 100 million people buy Bitcoin with $10.
Yes.
I have a,
Will Yeah, Francesco?
no, I have a point on this. I mean, what on the quality of the people who are buying it are now seeing the value. Well, that's something which is very telling because um, Alessandro mentioned before the willingness to question things, the intellectual activity. All of these are to get out of the system or the legacy system. No, and these are qualities, in my opinion. If a Bitcoiner, somebody has these qualities, is willing to question all of the given dogma things, then he will likely acquire Bitcoin, and then you have a smart person who is holding Bitcoin versus a dumb person who is holding bank stocks. No, so and the bank stocks the value goes down. So that person which is likely less smart than the person who is willing to question as a mental activity a certain type. Then his wealth goes to the person who maybe, of course, deserves it, and then that person will have more capital, no, as a result, and then he can deploy it back and do good things for the society. So Bitcoin is an capitalist, but also has a layer of justice within. And it's what is missing in the current market, because how the system works is that if you know something and where you have the financial possibilities to have big allocation, you're gonna earn money no matter what. No, I mean, because big players they make the market with hundreds of billion, at least in a short term. I mean, we have seen. I don't know what's your take on it. That's a bit collide argument, but I'm interesting also know. We have seen Warren Buffett has sold 2 months ago. And then the market went down for a while. I don't know if we bought back, but it was a very well done move. And maybe after you're that big, you contribute to make the market. And that's what Bitcoin is also against it. If you buy an order, you can beat the market and accumulate wealth no matter what. Thanks to the properties and feature of Bitcoin of increased scarcity. So I mean, Bitcoin is for everybody, but there are qualities of it which makes people even coming from a socialist system to stand out and to have a voice, to become to have more possibilities to
have
give
what
back
voice?
something.
I never
What?
really understood that argument saying that Bitcoin gives you a voice, right? Because if you're in a socialist system or you're in a communist system and you have Bitcoin, but the dictator puts a bullet through your head, what voice do you have?
No, I mean, you can escape the system. So I'm not saying the socialist system is good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you are into that system, you have a way out thanks to Bitcoin, because you're smart, you deserve that. So I want to say Bitcoin is for everybody. And it's a really
Yeah,
a human being.
it's a wonderful technology, and more people need to use it, etc., etc. But the reality in dollars managed by retail, because most retail money is in their homes. It's not in the markets. So based on every study that's ever been done. So what that tells you is that while retail is important, it's no longer important because you got 4 times the amount of money coming with institutional capital, and the people that they listen to, all of those 500 asset managers, take direct instruction from BlackRock. If BlackRock says something, they do it. That's how powerful BlackRock is. People really have no idea how powerful this company is and how powerful Larry Fink is in the world. Once you understand that, you realize the game theory that's being played. They had a fund since 2021 internally to get their people, their highest net worth, their highest special clients into Bitcoin. It was like their internal GBTC. Then they launched an ETF. All of this shit was planned from 2018 while they were saying that Bitcoin is bad for the world, while they were saying there's no demand, while they were saying all of this. So the game plan has been laid out here. So as far as normal people go, whatever. The fact is, $150 trillion of capital is now taking direct instruction from the one person that's now saying Bitcoin is the next thing that you need to get into. It's as simple as that.
I agree. It will be very important to have all institution, and the wave will be much higher than the retail. Also, adding on what you said, many they're saying, okay, we need to use Bitcoin, meaning we need to spend Bitcoin, but also you having it as a store of value. It's also is the I'm using it as a store of value. If you want also to use, okay, but it will remain until in the Bitcoin world. It will not go in the global medium of exchange before, as you said, it will become a global store of value.
Right.
So we cannot expect the normal merchant to use Bitcoin because there is
I
a
think it's so silly because, right, all these people want to do a circle jerk around, okay, everyone needs to use Bitcoin and this, that, and the other. Most of the time, what happens is I go and take my Bitcoin and I go and spend it and buy a coffee with it, stand there like a moron or use Lightning or whatever, right? And get my coffee with my Bitcoin. Take a selfie of myself, post it on Twitter. Yes, I just used Bitcoin to buy a fucking coffee. And the reality is, what happens is that merchant takes that Bitcoin, instantly liquidates it into dollars so they can pay their expenses. What was the point? What was the
but
point that happened here?
Vijay was we had the the second interview of this podcast. It was differentiated between medium of exchange versus payment rail. For many, just a payment rail, and then is converting dollars. And
Right.
also, I think if someone is interested in Bitcoin, like a merchant interested in Bitcoin, then it's okay. Like it's good that he's using. But with someone who is not interested in Bitcoin, Bitcoin as a store of value, I can discuss with him if he's interested 15 hours why Bitcoin is good as store of value. But as medium of exchange with the volatility, he has to pay taxes. There is no very few people who want to pay in Bitcoin. I understand all his points in not be tempted to use in Bitcoin unless he's interested in Bitcoin. I think this is the difference. If you are interested in Bitcoin, but we are very few people really interested in Bitcoin so far.
Yep.
Yes, a good point. Good point on this. Also, on the target that you said, one of your three rules is get to one Bitcoin. Can you elaborate why you chose exactly one Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think it's a really good meme to use, right? If you remember, maybe you were around, maybe you weren't, but American HODL, who's a friend of mine, created the meme of getting to 6.15 Bitcoin, right? And I like that meme, and now it's gone, right? For most people, getting to 6.15 Bitcoin is not no longer there, right? Whereas for me, I think when I first started talking, the easiest thing I could do was tell people to get to one Bitcoin because at that time it was like, I don't know, $12,000 or something. And of course, it will be priced out. But I think that it's important to have a North Star. And I think the North Star for this generation of Bitcoiners should be to get to one Bitcoin. So no matter what happens to the price of Bitcoin, as far as my story in this space goes, it will be to get to one Bitcoin. And I will tell everyone to consistently get to one Bitcoin or die trying, because I think that's what gives you the how do you say it? The flight, right? It's what gives you there it is, the escape velocity that you need in this world is one Bitcoin. I don't know. How many people do you think own one Bitcoin? I think it's less than 500,000 people.
Yeah, around this amount, I would say maybe 400,000, 600,000.
Yeah.
They say, but less than 1 million for sure,
Yeah.
out
Half
of
a
8
million
billion.
people like own one Bitcoin. Think about it. There's 8, 9 billion people in the world.
And there are
So
55 million millionaires.
right. Right. So, I think having a North Star of getting to one Bitcoin is very important.
I agree. The target should be for anyone who is interested in Bitcoin. And now the window is kind of getting is closing soon, as we are saying since months. So as you said before, Bitcoin is giving another time, like some spread to reach one Bitcoin. Me and Francesco, we are both old millennials, and I think if you're an old millennial and you had a job where you save every year, if you study Bitcoin at one point, maybe this year you could reach. If you study in the last 2 years, and if you move your investment into Bitcoin, it's still reachable. But once it's above 100, 120, 150, even for the medium class and the medium upper class, it will be impossible, especially if you start from zero, because it's not that from zero you go with 50% in Bitcoin. So one side is also said, so many people are missing something that we could front run Wall Street.
You know who's not going to miss out? Whoever Larry Fink's calling next.
Yeah, but now it's not only Larry Fink; it will be also Morgan Stanley advisor, right? We can discuss also about the news that
But guess
finally
why they did it? They did it because of
yeah,
BlackRock.
yeah,
And when I
yes,
say Larry Fink, I'm using it as like a meme, right? Larry Fink is the best meme to use here because
you
the
mean the
reality,
institution?
yeah, the reality is that the institutions listen to Larry, right? If Larry says it, we can do it. Simple as that.
Also, I liked your statement when you said the big thing of Bitcoin, considering 2024 and the next 10 years, is still the Bitcoin Spot ETF approval, because it will be the trigger from a second era of Bitcoin. Now having big companies or big investment banks, or in the future also banks, investing in Bitcoin, because it will be thanks to the Bitcoin Spot ETF approval. Without that, they will not, or you are a visionary as sailor, but we don't have some. Unfortunately, we don't have so many sailors. We have only one. Likely, maybe there will be other in the future. But
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember when I said it last year. As I said, I've changed my opinion. I think Sailor will be a one and done. I don't know if you remember that, but my point on that was to say, look, he found a moment in time, and he caught an opportunity in time, and he has taken that and ridden it to the bank, and he will continue to do that, and it's absolutely remarkable. But I don't think another Sailor is going to emerge.
and in case it will not be with the same magnitude, because
Well,
it's kind of
exactly,
acquiring. Yes, he started
exactly.
acquiring since the last 4 years. Francesco, so you say something?
Yeah, to spread around the different index from black from the others. Is that going to be a difference in your opinion? Don't want to pose too many questions. Thank you.
What? Sorry, remind me. What was the first question?
If the privacy use case of Bitcoin as a medium exchange can be beneficial for Europe and for the West, in case the government goes out and keep censoring, arresting people, do we want to
Yeah,
have? Yeah,
yeah. No, I don't think that, because if you're going to be a citizen in Europe, you're going to have to, advise the government about what your holdings are, and therefore they'll know, right? So the only solution is, if you want the privacy, is to buy it non KYC and not tell the government, which then becomes tax evasion. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a citizen of any normal country in the world, then you're going to have to advise. If you do tax filings, you're going to have to advise your holdings. The good news is, in Europe, is that we can just move out, right? That's the best solution. The best solution to maintain privacy is to move out until it gets bad enough where, the morons of a democratic environment decide that, okay, this is too bad now, and now we have to go the other way, and they start voting in the correct direction. That's the only solution you have in a democratic society. Unfortunately, it is very, very sad, but it is what it is, right? So you have to react and roll with the punches that get thrown at you. And unfortunately, Europe is going through a very, very tough time right now. Europe has a plan to replace the replace the people inside of the EU. Rather, has a plan to replace the people inside of Europe, and they're executing on that. And I don't think it's going to turn out too good. Um, it's certainly not turning out too good right now, but we'll see what the results are. And eventually, if Europe decides to turn itself around, I'll be happy to return. But until then, I'm happy to not pay any taxes in Europe and go and visit whenever I want, and take advantage of the good things and leave the bad things alone and not take any ownership of it. So, do I think that Bitcoin's going to help privacy in Europe? No, I don't, unless you want to commit tax evasion, which I don't recommend anyone to do. Um, it's certainly easier just to move to Dubai, right? If you're in Europe, just move to the UAE and fly back to Europe for 3 to 6 months of the year or whatever your limit is and have a good time. The other 6 months, you probably don't even want to be there anyway with the way the weather is most of the time. So, look, no, I don't think that's going to help. I think that politics is politics, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Eventually, if enough Bitcoiners in Europe get wealthy enough and start funding the right organizations, then maybe there can be a difference in impact. But then, the problem is with the fiat system, they can just print as much money as they want to continue their weather changing, gender changing, migrant changing missions that they have. So, unfortunately, there is no real answer until that whole machine is voted out of. And that's the issue with a democratic society. As far as the second question goes, with what are the milestones, I've said this before. I think the American ETFs are the single biggest milestone for the next 10 years for Bitcoin. The next milestone that I'll be looking at is for a G7 country to put Bitcoin in a sizable manner on its treasury. But I don't think that happens for a while. It may happen sooner than I think with the U.S. Strategic National Reserve, et cetera, et cetera. But that'll be the next milestone because that will cause some geopolitical, games to start with Bitcoin. But I think the ETFs are the single most important thing. I do not worry about what El Salvador is doing. I do not worry about what any other country is doing with Bitcoin until a G7 nation decides to do it, like America. And if they do it, I'll be over the moon. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they do it inside of 10 years.
And within
Okay, no.
within these 10 years, when do you think we will have an agreement, like from all institutions, that 1 or 3 or 5% in Bitcoin Bitcoin should be part of a balanced portfolio?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's also, maybe a cycle or two away with how it's going. I think it's being pitched as a quote unquote flight to quality at this point in time. And for that, you're going to have a 1 to 3% allocation, right? I think it's already happening as far as the higher net worth people go. It's certainly not happening in terms of passive funds right now. But as soon as, even the conversations that I've had with very high net worth investors that have these managers, the conversations they're having is already making an allocation. It's just not in the passive funds yet.
Okay, we will be waiting. And do you think also the breaking the 100K, not just reaching and then staying there, but reaching maybe 103, 105, 110 will accelerate this narrative? Because at 100K, I think will be harder for Bitcoin skeptics to still be in the same way against Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think 100K is an ego breaking number. And I think, there will definitely be people who looked at it and said, this doesn't make any sense, that at 100K will turn their opinion. There's just these big prime numbers that are always going to make people shift. $1 million will be the next one.
Yeah.
Be 100K and then $1 million.
And also 100K is important more than maybe 10K or 1K or 100, because people say, okay, Bitcoin reached this, but we didn't have adoption. But with 1K or even 10K, the market cap was still small. With 100K will be 2 trillion market cap. So it will be, I think, between 6 and 8 position among the biggest asset. And we need this size in order to attract institutions.
Exactly. I agree with that.
Francesco, you were interested in the question?
No, if he wishes to have the fidelity or the big firms to passively introducing Bitcoin in the investment, in the indexing, if that do you see happening? Because
Fidelity's already doing it in their Canadian fund, right? So it's just a matter of time until it comes over to their US funds. All of this takes time. Bitcoiners want things to happen fast because our generation has sort of been used to things moving fast. Traditional finance moves very, very slowly because they got regulations. They need to make sure not to upset people. They need to take things very, very slowly. So, you know, but then again, I'm saying that and feeling stupid as I'm saying it because who would have thought that within a year we went from, Bitcoin is used by drug dealers to a Bitcoin Senate, a Bitcoin House, a Bitcoin president in the United States. But I guess that's the power of Larry Fink.
Yes. No one, especially maybe not 1 year ago, but for sure in Q4 2022 when FTX collapsed, it looked like for many looked like the end of Bitcoin, and now we have the running candidate pro Bitcoin. But on the other side, also on the same side, also the Democrats are shifting their opinion. We saw also the approval of the Ethereum. That said that Bitcoin is not crypto is not Bitcoin, but considering that they still don't understand this, we can see also as a positive signal towards crypto, so including Bitcoin. They were not against it
Yeah,
before.
yeah, maybe. Look, I think the Democrats. Look, as far as I'm concerned, whichever party is going to do the most to support Bitcoin is going to get my vote. I don't care whether they want to change the weather by printing money. I don't care whether they want to change people's genders by printing money. I don't care about any of that, right? I want the Bitcoin supported. So the faster they can support Bitcoin and the harder they can simp for Bitcoin, the better the more I want it. A lot of American Bitcoiners seem to think that Europeans need to give a shit what happens inside of American borders. We don't. We don't need to care. So from my perspective, I don't live in America. I visit America whenever I want to, and I love America. I love the true essence of America. But if they want to keep voting Democrat over there and have their society go to shit just like we've had in Europe, then let them do that. As long as the party supports Bitcoin. You want to print the money? Good. Print it and buy the Bitcoin. I don't care what else happens.
okay, is that called the single issue voter? Oh,
So I'm a single issue voter and I'm an accelerationist, right? I think that was the phrase that someone came out with. I heard. I like that phrase. I'm an accelerationist. You want to get to the other side of this. The faster we print the money, the faster we get to the other side of it.
I see. Do you think the El Salvador model, if that spreads a bit more in other minor countries, not the G7, but will that help a bit, or it's not important at all in your opinion?
It's not important at all. El Salvador has not become successful because it uses Bitcoin. El Salvador has become successful because they were smart enough to elect a leader who was brave enough to execute things that need to be executed for the country. They still use the US dollar, right? People don't understand how it works. If you go read the law, it basically says you can use Bitcoin referenced in US dollars. So therefore the underlying currency is US dollars. El Salvador as a success story is not a Bitcoin success story. Bitcoin is a part of it, but it's not a Bitcoin success story. It is a Nayib Bukele success story. And the people of El Salvador have voted for a good leader who is deciding to take all of this action to keep the country safe. And yes, he's allowing Bitcoin to happen, but Bitcoin is not the reason for that. It's not like Bitcoin got into, Nayib Bukele's brain like a parasite, like RFK Jr., and decided to control him to creating, a positive country. Nayib Bukele made the promises and he kept them. And he's allowed Bitcoin, right? Same thing with the UAE. The UAE keeps people safe. They just passed a law to allow Bitcoin to be used as a method of salary payment. And that's what happens. It's not Bitcoin that saved El Salvador. It's Nayib Bukele and his willingness to be a good leader and protect his people. Bitcoin's a part of it.
I see. Alessandro, do you have any other question?
I think we can discuss on Ethereum and Bitcoin chart that we discussed at the beginning of the space. So we were talking with Francesco before, like 2 years ago in September, there was the merge, and there were many crypto bros saying Bitcoin, Ethereum was a 0.084, and the market cap was half of Bitcoin, and many they were excited. They were saying it will come. There will be the flippening soon. Now, what's happening after 2 years? Bitcoin, Ethereum is 0.04 at the lower part of the last 2 or 3 years, and the market cap is 1/4. Do you think this will keep going down, and it will help the narrative that Bitcoin only?
Everything's going to zero against Bitcoin, right? We know this. Everything's going to zero against Bitcoin. And
Totally.
The ETH boys are gonna have to suffer the whole way down. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm good with people suffering. Sometimes people don't deserve to have money, right? As simple as that. So there's money I've had in my life that I didn't deserve to have for whatever reason. Maybe I earned it too quick. Maybe it was a speculation that I got lucky on. Maybe I didn't feel like I deserved it, whatever. So guess what? It went away from me. And that's what's happening to all the Ethereum holders right now. And it's okay. It's all right. It's a healing process that has to happen.
And yes, I think for many, unfortunately, the only way they get convinced that Bitcoiners, Maxi, were right is to get wrecked with crypto. There is unfortunately for some there is no other way. And not only that this money will go away from them, but at one point, I think once we reach maybe lower than 0.04, 0.035, 0.03, then they will also, some of them will start to question, or maybe it's better that I keep everything in Bitcoin.
Do you really want someone that truly thought that Ethereum was going to be the next thing in the world to have any Bitcoin? I don't.
I would
I
say,
don't.
I think every Bitcoiner, most of every Bitcoiner, at least most of the Bitcoiners, they were also shitcoiners at one point. In
Maybe,
2020,
sure, but they had Bitcoin, right? Like I'm talking about
yeah,
these
yes,
people. I'm talking about these
yes,
people that say Ethereum's going to flip Bitcoin. Do I really want them
yes,
having any Bitcoin? Not really.
maybe no, yes, maybe
Yeah.
we convince, no, it will not convince them. Yeah, let's differentiate. I'm convinced someone who is maybe is in crypto, 30% in 50% in Bitcoin and 50% in crypto and 20% as Ethereum. Maybe going down the Ethereum versus Bitcoin will convince him. Firstly, if Ethereum also keep going down, also the other altcoins will go even more down. So it will convert this portion of crypto in Bitcoin. That was a
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It doesn't really matter though, does it?
yes,
How big is the crypto market right now
it's
in dollar
two,
terms?
2 trillion in concluding Bitcoin around
Yeah.
two something.
So
Yes,
it's like 700-800 billion dollars, right?
yes, the rest.
Larry Fink controls $150 trillion.
You're right. Yes,
Don't give a shit what the crypto nerds want to do. I
it
don't
will be.
care.
No, we
They
care.
they they have to learn, not me. I don't need to sit here and convince anyone that they need to convert their crypto portfolio. Whatever you're willing to lose, put it in anything else but Bitcoin. Whatever you can't afford to lose, that's what you put in Bitcoin. Simple as that.
That's what also Michael Saylor saying, and it's very counterintuitive because if you say that you are very exposed in Bitcoin overall, they think, oh, you really like risk. How can you sleep at night?
Yep.
But it's the opposite. Francesco?
Tools layer 3 they're going to create. And that's not necessarily bad for the network effect standpoint. I don't want the people coming from the Ethereum ecosystem who are completely dishonest and say there's going to flip in Bitcoin, but because you can see that the narrative is being made by really dishonest people. However, there are a bunch of a considerable amount of people who work on the spaces who have no clue what the economic politics of what we studied and how to explain things, how the real value of Bitcoin. They just do it because they get paid more. So that people will move, which I have nothing against it. I don't want dishonest people on Bitcoin. That's what I will be worried about. But other people, if at a certain point in their lives they realize that they were wrong, they change their mind, and they want to embrace it, that's an achievement also for Bitcoin for the society. I just have to take will take the bad apples away from the ecosystem. That's for sure. But that's what I think is going to happen when the Ethereum versus Bitcoin goes lower and lower. They will take the narrative which Ethereum was a test net for Bitcoin, and they will apply on top of it. That's my guess. I don't know, but
It is. It is a test net. Everything is a test. Real estate is a test net for Bitcoin. The stock market is a test net for Bitcoin, right? Bonds are a test net for Bitcoin. Everything is a test net for Bitcoin because we've never ever seen an asset with absolute finality of scarcity. That's what Bitcoin is. Therefore, all these other assets that we've tried to imagine have scarcity are a test net for Bitcoin. If you don't think Larry Fink understands how to take Bitcoin and turn it into a security backed by debt, then you don't understand what the game plan is, right? The game plan is he's done it since the 70s with mortgage-backed securities, right? That's the game plan for Bitcoin eventually. And it's going to happen a lot faster. It's going to be half the time than the 30 years it took to do it with real estate. So everything is a test net for Bitcoin. And if the Ethereum boys want to turn around and say, oh yeah, I was building this on Ethereum, now I want to build it on Bitcoin, come along. I'm a capitalist, right? The market will decide whether it wants to give you any money or not. And once the market decides, then you can, see whether the project has any value. I don't care. As long as it's built on Bitcoin, I have no issues.
I agree. I agree. I mean, that's a network effect which is being brought about, and everything is good for it. And the fact it's a testnet also implies that it's the best asset and the best technology asset. So everything will converge into it, and it's just a
Yep.
matter of time. So, yeah.
Whatever psychosis people have, right? Right? There's a lot of psychosis going on, right now, and they put it in terms of identity. Whatever psychosis people have, I'm a crypto guy, I'm a this guy, I'm a that guy, I'm a whatever guy, I'm a whatever. I want to change the weather guy, like whatever. Whatever psychosis people have, eventually it will be folded into Bitcoin, and that's good for Bitcoin.
We already saw, for example, NFT. They are dead. No one is talking anymore to NFT. Everything will at one point everything when will trend to zero to Bitcoin, then they will converge.
Yeah.
I think also many they are doing because being only in Bitcoin is selling less. Because if you talk only about Bitcoin, you are more limited. So they discuss also about crypto, they discuss also about the metaverse,
Yeah.
Web3, and they look like they know more things. While
Yeah,
at the
why
end,
not?
Bitcoin is the thing.
Why not? Let them have some fun, They're only
Exactly.
they're only going to end up wrecking their brothers, their sisters, their grandmas, other people's brothers, sisters, aunties, parents. You know, that's all. That's all. They're only going to end up ruining the lives of thousands of people around the world. And if they can live with that, if the devil inside of them is happy with them doing that, then let them do it.
Yeah, we will see in the next months. And discussing about the future, knowing that every short, middle term prediction on Bitcoin can be completely wrong. What do you think could happen for the rest of 2024? Do you see more
Yeah.
institutions, the real flow, or coming in 2025?
Oh no, we are currently sitting with money markets in cash at a two times higher average or 2 times higher than the 30-year average. So there is a lot of scared cash on the sidelines here. So I think once the election in the US, which is basically the biggest clown show, right? Like there's different clown shows. The UK just had its clown show. There's different clown shows around the world, aka the elections. And the US, which is the biggest, baddest clown show in the world, is happening now. So once that clown show is finished, this capital will start being allocated, and that capital is currently being educated about Bitcoin. So I think we're going to see a rapid rise up. I think we may be able to breach $100,000 this year. It might be too short after the election. We'll see. But overall, I think capital continues to come into Bitcoin.
Yep, I agree that we may see still 100K. Also, the institution that are doing due diligence is on the ETF, so not being on the Bitcoin. So maybe in the next 2 or 3 or 4 months, they will also finish that. And secondly, also we had the German government selling 50,000 Bitcoin. Mount Gox finally, since when I started to study Bitcoin, there was always this ghost haunting Bitcoin world. Oh, but Mount Gox can release 100,000 Bitcoin. Finally, they did. So all the trade, all the threat for Bitcoin, at least in big portion, are over. We had Genesis, FTX, Gemini, Celsius, they are all over. And instead we have a positive news that from October there will be 16 billion in USD given to FTX creditor. So it will not be in coins, it will be in USD. So we have likely many of them will buy also crypto, unfortunately, but also Bitcoin. It's a good thing. So we have many good
How
indicators that
much is
will say
that?
that Q4, 16 billion, 1 6.
16 billion. Let me remind you, Larry Fink controls $150 trillion. I don't care what FTX creditors do. I don't care what any of these people do anymore. Right? Does it's irrelevant. 16 billion versus $150 trillion of capital.
But this 16 billion can likely go already this year. Out of this 120 trillion, maybe 1% we will have in 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, but
So we will
1% of 150 trillion is
1.5.
1.5 trillion dollars.
Yes, it's insane. Yes.
You know,
So yes,
like
yes.
fuck all of this
So we just have
FTX
to wait
Celsius
institutions.
bullshit. Like it's over. Let them go. It's fine. We don't need them anymore. Let them. I hope they don't. Let's put it like that. They've already proven themselves to be stupid, right? So let's hope they don't use it to buy Bitcoin because we need intelligent people to buy Bitcoin now.
Also on this, it was surprising that the ETFs older didn't sell so much after there was the crisis due to Japan raising the
It's not
interest rate.
surprising at all. Why is it surprising? I told you it was going to happen. We got
You
a
see in a good
rotation
way.
of buyers,
It
right?
looks like, yeah, for the ETFs, they are holding more. Like maybe
Of
they more
course.
trying to buy, but then once they buy, they hold.
I said this in my videos last year. This was going to
Okay.
happen.
So not surprising for you. Hopefully,
Not
even
surprising
if
at
it is
all.
retail.
Everyone said, "Oh, the ETFs are going to sell their big." I said it was not going to happen because ETF holders are long-term holders. We've got a rotation of owners going on, and that's what's going to take time. Right now, the amount of liquidity of Bitcoin available on exchanges is so low, and that's what's going on here. I think Binance had to move like 30,000 Bitcoin from their personal holdings just to maintain liquidity because Bitcoin is being sucked off the exchanges right now. That's what's
Yes,
going on, guys. You just got to be patient, right? Once this rotation of owners, completes, and these morons that are selling right now finish selling, there's only one way this thing is going because the buyers are going to keep buying.
yes, we will be patient as
Yeah,
buy and hold. And on this, would you say to people who say that we should trade Bitcoin?
we should what Bitcoin
Trade,
trade
like
Bitcoin.
time Bitcoin. Yes.
Listen, I've got like first thing I want to say is I was going to talk about my Italian friend, but you two are my Italian friends too. And I just want to say, if you felt insulted by me snapping the pasta, I apologize. It was not an insult for the country of Italy or all Italians. It was an insult for that particular Italian. So I love Italy. I love the culture. I love the food. I love the wine. I love the people. Hopefully, I'll be retiring to Italy whenever that happens. It's always been my plan. So I want to make that very clear that me snapping the pasta was not an insult to Italians. It was an insult to Giuseppe and his friends. Oh, sorry, Gio and his friends, and so as far if you want to trade, there are many people out here trying to convince you that they know what the hell's going to happen. And hey, here, look, I'll give you a a power opinion prediction too, right? It's called power opinion now, by the way, right? It was previously law. I've renamed it power opinion after that debate. My power opinion is Bitcoin's going to be somewhere between 100,000 and $1 million in the next 10 years. And as long as that happens, my trading methodology is correct, right? That's basically the power opinion. So if you think that you can do well in that range, go for it. Would I recommend that you trade it? No. Are the smartest people in the world trading it? No. Paul Tudor Jones is not in here trying to trade in and out Bitcoin, right? So I would suggest that listening to Paul Tudor Jones is more important to listening to Mario, Giuseppe, Gio, and the gang. I think that's probably better, listening to Paul Tudor Jones, than the Power Opinion, previously law people. Because
Also,
here's the
Tracy,
crazy part: those morons aren't trading their Bitcoin either. The people that are literally trying to tell you that there are models to try and predict the price of Bitcoin to trade it out to, as he put it, quote unquote, multiply our Bitcoins, they're not doing it. They're not willing to put 50% of their stack on the line to do it. So no one intelligent is going to trade their Bitcoin. If you're sitting there going, "Hey, I'm going to trade my Bitcoin," I would highly, recommend you look in the mirror before you do that. You may be able to make it work, but you may end up losing all of your Bitcoin. And unfortunately, it's not like real estate or equities where you can just look for the next opportunity. It's a once in a species opportunity, and I don't want anyone to be left holding their bag empty.
I agree that people should keep holding, and now also all the models will be, as the sailor said, destroyed because the supply is something new. Also because it's something new. Also, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote, "It's bloody hard to explain because there is nothing we can
Nothing
refer to."
like it.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Completely agree.
Thanks for the part on the past. I think whenever you have an argument with someone, let's try not to identify the person with the country, because then also other people from the same country could feel offended.
Of
Disregards for
course.
Italy or the rest. But
Yeah.
overall, the buy and hold, I believe, I agree, totally agree that I don't like anyone who's talking about model and on saying to buy to end up with more Bitcoin that if you
Right.
hold. This is
Right.
totally wrong. I will never advise for this.
I told you that, right? Everybody called me a bully. Everybody said I was too much, this, that, and the other. And then of course he had to come out and say it himself that he wants people to trade their Bitcoin. And I just don't think people should do that, right? You can tell me I'm wrong, and you can tell me, yeah, if we manage to pick the exact top and manage to pick the exact bottom, we could multiply our Bitcoins. But I just don't think people can.
Yes, and also the risk is too high. Sailor replied that only Bitcoin give, let's say, 50% in the last 10 years per year, and if you miss the best 8 days, it's like S&P 500, and
Right.
no one knows when are these eight best days. So
Right.
actually, sometimes I think also this it's very hard to pass because people are thinking, okay, only buy and hold. That's it. That's boring. That's stupid. That's like also a low IQ person can do. It should not. It cannot be true, or maybe
Right.
it's too good to be true. But it is too good. Is this so good to be true? That's the.
Right.
But to realize this, you need to study, and this is very counterintuitive. It's-
Yep. And it sounds sexy, right? It sounds sexy when someone, tells you that they have the keys to be able to time this asset that no one's ever seen before, this mystical asset, and you can time it and get as much of it as you want if you just, accept the candy they want to give you. Like, yeah, okay, it sounds great. It sounds really interesting, but it's just not true.
Also, we had Giacomo Zucco was saying the same, like saying timing Bitcoin or crypto is selling more, because if you have a financial advisor who advise only Bitcoin, then the people are saying, okay, I do by myself, so I don't need you. That's why many not financial advisor people who have you want to have high content in YouTube channel and so on, many they decide to go for, okay, you need to trade Bitcoin, we need to have other altcoins, you'd be
Yep.
interested in Web3 and so on. Totally agree. Francesco, you have any other?
Yeah. I mean, we are seeing also in our podcast. The most viewed episodes are the one people related who can talk about the Bitcoin price, and that's the people. They have the dream, the expectation. They fool themselves in knowing that trying to time the market and get rich, but we really want. I mean, Bitcoin is not. The point is that Bitcoin is not an asset like the other asset. The Bitcoin is an asset which is supply limit with limited supply and gets scarcer and scarcer. So you want to trade the fact that you have as an investor an advantage on the market by knowing the feature of Bitcoin that every 4 years gets scarcer and scarcer. So you are going to trade that for a kind of impossible chance to time the market, risking to lose it all. So if you don't hold, you lose the advantage you have in the market given to you by the Bitcoin scarcity, programmed scarcity. So if you trade, try to time it, you just ditch that for something which 90% of the time will fail, will make you not successful, because as Sailor said, he made a chart where if you lose the 10 quickest time of the year in the market, where the appreciation goes really quick, and you have high frequency traders, bots, with majority of markets is made of automatic trading. You cannot beat that. There's no way you can beat it. So if you lose those 10, 15 days, you lose like 60% of the gain, something. So you have no chances of beating the market. You are trading the feature Bitcoin gives to you, which is programmed scarcity, and you turn it against you by not holding it. So it's really no. And yeah, but people like in the shitcoin, some people as to really hurt themselves first. Having said that, I think we are going towards the conclusion. What I feel also from a psychological standpoint is that the brand of Bitcoin is growing. Everybody knows about Bitcoin in the world, but before more people were scared about it. Just by naming it in 2017, people were really scared. That was true also in 2020, 2021, and then was a bull run, and people saying that the bull run happened just because of money printing. Now we have all big firms and the narrative shift. Also, World Economic Forum positively talked about Bitcoin mining. And what I'm seeing is that in the last year, people are less scared. People are looking at it with different eyes. Not really investing yet, most of the retail, but something is about to change. The power of government, the British said, and this big corporation is very powerful, and they are applying it in favor of Bitcoin because they want this volume to skyrocket, because they want more fees, and they make it. Those are private companies, and they want to make money, and they can shape the future in any way until we don't get smart enough. The Bitcoin makes the individual powerful enough to counteract and to establish his individual sovereignty to have a better place. So I'm bullish on everything, on Bitcoin, the price, on the network, and on the people on Bitcoin. So it was a pleasure talking to you. We always keep in touch, and don't trade, just thought. Thank you.